What's happening, guys? What's happening? Welcome to Five Rounds. You've got myself, Wantali, today. We have got David Murphy, representing the European corner, and you've got
a fight.
Get your gloves on, man.
I didn't watch it. It's me versus all of these guys, so I better be good.
We had to come in a gang because we're scared. We're like, whoa. It's actually a full house today. We've got Ovi, we've got Patso.
What did you do?
And then we got Freddie, and we got Patrick. So the topic today, guys, the topic today is growing up African compared to growing up European. So what we're going to do in this show is a little different. It's going to be a little bit of a comparison. You know, we'll be looking on one side of the fence and then looking on the other side of the fence, basically, to sort of compare how, the experiences that people have had, So I'm going to straight away get into it. The first question in this topic is what method of discipline did you experience? So first we're going to the European side. So Paul David Murphy, what were the methods of discipline that you received? Like if you did something wrong, how did your parents deal with it?
Well, there would have been I suppose in the era I grew up in Ireland, it was a mixture. It was a kind of happy medium between the old style discipline, which would have been, I suppose, there would have been physical side to it, Mm-hmm. Now the new side is kind of the more, I suppose, emotional side of it, or the deprivation side of it. But growing up, it's funny, it sounds like I'm how would you say, making up, but I can't very much think of too many times I had to be disciplined. We all had to, but it was a mix between the two for sure. Like there wouldn't have been a huge amount of physical discipline, but in Ireland at that time, it was still a factor. But I think more than a lot of things, I think the fear of the possibility of a bit of physical discipline is almost worse. And it's certainly enough than actual physical, discipline. But it was there as a threat, and it needed to be there, I think, for us, it's, yourself, young people growing up. But yeah, there was a fear of physical stuff. You wouldn't be allowed to do something if you really messed up, and God, if you went and did it anyway after that, like it just wasn't worth finding out what happened if you broke the rule when you were being punished. So it was there. It wasn't scary. It wasn't for us anyway. And it wasn't. And I would say it would have been an average kind of upbringing in that regard from us. Nice parents, but good parenting is firm. Remember that. People need to remember that good parenting is firm. But yeah, I mean, I remember when I went to school, for example. Yeah. In primary school, our teacher actually had a drawer, right? She had her normal desk, her teacher's desk, and the top drawer of it, right, was full of wooden rulers. They were cheaper, like 10p rulers. And the purpose of those rulers was to break it across us. Our arms, our heads. She didn't discriminate. Head, arm, leg. 3 rulers was the most that broke out over me, I think, at one stage. But again, we deserved it. We turned out fine. So there was a physical element to it too. Growing up. Born in the 80s, growing up, I suppose, childhood in the 90s, it was still there. It wasn't, it wasn't this hugely abusive, physical thing or anything like that. But it was there. It wasn't fully modernized back then. But look, did a good job of me, fair play.
So would you compare it like back in your days, and then you compare the kids nowadays? Do you think it has changed a little, or is it more of the same method?
I would say it has changed a little. Like I say, I can't even, honestly, off the top of my head, I can't even remember one time I was in any ways hit with anything. But like I said, the threat of it would be there, which was enough, I think. But I think nowadays is probably in a lot of cases, at least on the face of things, and in theory anyway, I think a lot of it is more the naughty step, I think, and maybe you're not allowed no screen time today, or no YouTube today, or whatever. I think now, listen, I wouldn't be an expert on modern day parenting, but I would say it has come, if you want to call it progressed, or if you want to call it more lenient, at least with regard to the physicality of it. Possibly, I'd say it's gone more that way now. But again, to generalize from my family could be different to someone else's, and could be, rural and urban, and more wealthy areas versus more, poorer areas could be very different. But it's definitely, I would have gone the more American way, if you'd like to put it that way, the more kind of psychologist-friendly way, just
the more American way.
Which is why our soccer team is crap, by the way. No, this is why we can't achieve anything in our. Anyway, sorry. Because you're all too soft now. Too soft.
Oh no, the tears started rolling out. I mean, welcome to those people that have just joined us, guys. Today's topic is growing up African versus growing up European, and today we have Paul David Murphy, all the way from Ireland. Which city are you from, by the way, Paul?
I'm from Mayo originally, County Mayo, a small town called Ballinrobe. I'm a mile outside the town again, brought up on a farm, but lovely place. I live in Galway City now, and I'm now currently talking to you from my attic in Galway City Centre on the West End, which is also a safe house for the IRA weapons. But anyway, yeah.
Right.
I love the way, by the way, they got the whitest looking person imaginable to do the this is me without ever wearing sun cream and being out all day as well, by the
way. Great.
We needed the rep. We need the European rep, man. So thank you. So what Paul David Murphy was talking about was the method of discipline that he experienced growing up as a European. So now we're going to go to the African corner. So representing the African corner first is Ovi Too Nice. So the question is, what method of discipline did you experience growing up, Ovi?
Method of discipline I experienced in we wouldn't beat about the bush. It was only until when I was saying only when I came to Europe, I seen it differently. I seen the way kids will be disciplined as a day of today. My discipline was you are getting the beaten or you follow the rules. Okay. So if my parents say that today you ain't going out to play, it's you ain't going out to play. If you step an inch of foot outside the door, you're getting a beating. And it wasn't. We're not talking about wood. Like here, as much as I definitely agree. They always say, "Oh, wooden spoon." Our parents used to hit a wooden spoon. In my house, if they were going to tell me they're going to hit me with the wooden spoon, I'll be like, "Hallelujah!" Anytime. That would be that spoon. Yeah, even if it was metal spoon, me, I would say like, "Yeah, that's." Today we're having fun. Like we're you know what I mean? I personally say, I'll give you a good example. I never blame my parents for it. I think it made me a better person. I believe it did, because I think there's certain things I could have been doing, but the fact of the punishment that I was getting, I'll be like, nah, I ain't doing that again. Nah. With the stuff that happened last time, nah, I don't want to go through that again. Yeah. No, you know what I mean? Because I mean the point of, I remember oftentimes my mom was the type of mom is like, yeah, when I screw up, she's like, yeah, you fucked up, so you're gonna, and she would tell it to me. She say, Ovita, you're gonna get a beating before she does it. Okay. That's the worst part. So the pain of me was the period of thinking, yeah, she's gonna kick the rat's ass out of me today. At some point, but she'll tell me that's the worst. She'll tell me after maybe let's say I remember there was a time like she gave me money to go in another town to give it, and then I was going to a concert in Blantyre, and then I said, yeah, I need money. She gave me, and she passed me some money. She said, when you get there, go to your auntie so she can give the auntie to Granny. I'm like, yeah, cool. I'll do that. But I was really young at the time as well. I think I was about I'd say about 17, 16ish, but it was this French culture center. I was like, cool, no problem, man. But when I went there, I went to ShopRite just beside there. I was like, nah, man, I need to buy a few for my boys and all that. I spent all the money. And they're ringing me, I switched off my phone and all that. And my mom texted me, she's like, kid, when you come home, I'm kicking the shit out of you. And you're going to know. You're going to learn. You're going to learn.
No, hold on a minute. You're saying you spent the money, and then your mom texts you that you're gonna get your ass. Why? Why did how did she find out that you spent the money?
Because obviously my granny was waiting for the money. They knew I'm arriving today, and I give it to my auntie. My auntie's gonna go to my granny's house and give it. So my granny rang, obviously asking my mom, "What's the story? I haven't still received the money." You said, "Has Ovita not arrived there?" Yeah, has Ovita not arrived there? Me, I've switched off my phone. I'm chilling. Yeah? So she just left the message. Yeah, she left the message. She said, "Look, when you get back here, I am gonna kick the shit out of you, and you're gonna learn." You know, and I stayed 3-4 days. I was hiding. I couldn't go home. But eventually, no one is going to keep me forever. I had to go home. You know what I mean? And
I thought until you moved to Ireland.
You thought this way I wouldn't.
He still hasn't gone back to the beating land. He's like,
he skipped the beating. So
and I went back. And boys, I'm telling you, my mom must have no matter how we grew up, your parents, even my mom can beat me today, and I'll sit there and I'll take it. You know what I mean? That's the type of respect we had. And when I went back, I'm sure my mom was beating me for a full 2 hours non-stop, and she was beating me and beating. I swear to God,
full 2 hours. Damn.
Oh, maybe straight. My mom would beat me when I was young, whip me in my room. After she whipped me, she would take a break, tell me to go in the shower to shower, and then she would continue beating me again.
Yeah, right. You must have done something wrong, man.
In the shower. No, because I was a
dedication, man.
I was a little, bully, stupid kid. She'll tell you go on. Sometimes she'll tell you go and pick up a stick. Remember that? Go pick up a stick.
Yeah.
And you obviously go and pick a small tiny stick because she told you pick up the stick I should whip you with. And you'll go out there and pick a little tiny one that maybe one stroke it breaks.
She'll get a bigger one, yeah.
Man, no.
That's an old tactic. That's an old. I don't know if it's an African tactic, but that's a Malawian tactic as well. Like
psychologically, kind of, like get you thinking about your own beating and
your own punishment.
Well, if you come back with a tin one, you're going to come back with a tree bark, a tree trunk this time,
That's what I was thinking psychologically. If you brought a big one, what is she going to say? So, yeah, just kill me. I want you to just kill me.
Oh, my God.
But
okay.
I think, just to add something, to me, I think, in all fairness, personally to me, at the time, I reached a point I was thinking, like, do you really love me? Are you my mom, or did you just pick me off the street? You know what I mean? I had those thoughts as a child because I was like, this is too much. But in time, now I understand. I was like, I think that served me in certain ways because there's certain things I never did again because I had to fear. Because I think if she had told me that, look, go and sit on that corner because you robbed my money. Next time I see money, I'll take it again and say, I should go sit on the stairs. Yeah, bold. Bold. You have time out. Into the stairs. All right, Bob.
just to add in there what Ovita said, as in, like you said, Paul, David, not Paul. So since both of you are Paul, it's going to be a little.
Just call it Paul.
It's a psychological thing, you know what I mean? It's basically. I think it was preparing us, to have discipline. When we're growing up, kids always want to experience stuff and all sorts of things. It's like a baby, we put a candle there, lit a fire, tell the baby no, and then you do something, you pinch them a little bit, they don't understand, if I do this, I'll get that pinch, so I must not do that, what I mean? For me, until now, I still have...
Whoa, did you say you pinch a baby?
I'm just giving an example, bro. Relax. I don't pinch babies.
Did anyone check on some sort of list? No.
Dude, a kid at 8 years old can be considered a baby. You know what I mean?
One time, do you remember this is the same guy who said the baby pushes the other baby to the floor?
I remember that.
Anyway, let's continue. So until now, when I look at my mom, I still give her that same respect, I should watch my tongue. I shouldn't curse in front of her because of that way that she has brought me up. When I do something wrong, pinch me, I still have a little thing, but it has given me that like gentleman type of a feeling as well. Even when I'm talking to my wife, I still give her that lady, she's a lady, I should treat her like my mom type of thing, you know what I mean? Respect and it's paid off, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, go on there.
Now that's a good point. So picking up from both sides, I think this one it seems a bit more of a tie because Paul David said, "Look, sometimes it was physical, but sometimes it was psychologically physical. So they would make you think about your punishment. So that would be the punishment itself." Ovita pretty much said the same thing in so many words, but gave the same description that look, it was a physical sort of punishment thing, but also it was psychological. Before I move to the next question, we have a comment from Vanessa. She says, David, do you think the new age form of parenting is better than the older generation parenting? So the older way of parenting. So there's a question for you straight away, David.
Paul David. Okay. Yeah. Do I think it's better? I suppose it's hard to know. I suppose it's all about the end product, really, isn't it? The people that come out of it. I suppose you could maybe a mental toughness, a physical toughness, just a general sense of, what's good, what's not, moral compass. I suppose it's very hard to say, really. The people from the older style. Like I said, I wouldn't have been. The physical discipline was kind of not there, but more that maybe the possible threat of it. It wasn't completely out of the question. It's what I'm saying. Whereas now, I think probably in a lot of households it is out of the question. It's hard to know. I suppose you have to think about what it does. Does it teach people that violence is okay, and does that make them more violent? Does it teach people that violence solves problems, and does that lead to more violence? Does it build up anger and resentment in people because they're not as strong or whatever, they're on the receiving end of the violence or whatever, or for all those same reasons, does it make them want to stay away from something like violence? Now, I know I'm focusing on that in particular, but I don't know. It really is hard to know. I think it's a sociologist would probably have to answer that question, but I suppose it depends on the attitude towards violence, and I think younger people now are much, 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 much less violent, much less. Every single town and city in Ireland, every area, we've all heard it, guys. People say, "Oh God, this used to be tough back in the day, or back in the 90s, back in the 80s. Oh, it's way better now than it was." We hear that about everywhere. So I would say certainly in that sense, I would say levels of most criminality is down as well. Respect for people, in ways, I'd say people are definitely more inclusive. They're more tolerant, respectful of elders, respectful of your neighbor, kind of respectful of family, possibly maybe not as much. So it's hard to know. It really is hard to know. I think it depends. I suppose it depends what the end goal is. That's suppose that what is better. How does one measure which method of discipline is better? Is it person staying out of crime? Is it a person being less violent? Is it a person doing good things? I don't know. It's a hard enough question to answer. But I suppose there's a lot of things to think. A lot of things to think of. But I would say the new generation of people are less inclined to look towards physical violence to solve problems. I would say that.
Okay.
So maybe that's a measure of it.
Okay, so guys in the comments, if you've got stories to share of how you got disciplined growing up, please put it in the comments or put it in the chat as well. I'm going to move to the next question, and we're going to stick to the African side, of course. So Fred's going to take this question first. The one that is quite difficult and quite juicy. Yeah. So when and how did the sex talk happen, Fred?
Well, for me, it's a whole lot different, because I haven't grown up with my dad, when I was younger, because my parents split, so I didn't really have the talk. I mean, I had my uncles do that for me. Sit down having a beer. And the good thing about my uncle was when I'll sit down and have a beer, it wasn't as embarrassing as it was. Well, although my mom did attempt to try. But obviously, I just, I was a bit shy. I was a bit blushing and everything like that.
Hey, you gotta share this talk, man. What?
You know what I mean? Because as a young adult, there was a time, when you're in high school and everything, getting noticed by girls and stuff. So they just ended up coming over for some reasons. Oh, is Fred there? Like, oh, yeah, I'm busy playing games and everything, PlayStation and stuff. So I was chatting with them. So she noticed there used to be like different one coming, but we're sitting outside. That's the thing. That's when I was like, what, 14? And, women start growing faster than men. So obviously women will start feeling, developing parts of the bodies. And then, I was curious as well, started, talking to women and all this stuff. Hit a few tapes of adult films. I'm just saying. So, this one time, my mom started noticing girls coming over, and then she didn't know how, obviously, to tell me like, okay, Fred, wear condoms and stuff. So she was basically hinting. I don't remember. I don't know how to put it in words, So she said in Chichewa, like, I don't know how you can. Okay, basically, you protect yourself.
Do you help yourself?
You protect
Do you help yourself? So for me, I was young, like, help myself. What the hell you talk about? Help myself.
Oh, you mean? Oh,
so basically, your mom was just
asking, do you wank?
She wasn't going for the head.
She was going for the head, beating around the bush.
She was beating around the bush, like, yo, do you?
Do you chop the chicken?
And I caught on eventually, and the good thing was she was closer with my uncle as well. So she ended up telling my uncle to actually like, okay, talk to the young kids that are growing up. They need to know this sex topic and everything. My uncle used to hit the nail on the head, like, oh, when you're doing this, wear condoms, man. Don't just go in and you get sick, So you when you're young there, you're like, oh, of course, you put a shy face, me sex, no. Obviously, I've done it and stuff,
Yeah.
And I used to steal some tapes here and there, My uncles were into those things as well, so I learned most, by watching, and then in school we had these sex talks as well, which when you're sitting with a girl and have a sex talk, everybody's just looking, everybody's just weird in class, So it was a tricky, but eventually we caught on, and then, but it's different now, Now I know they can go on YouTube and everything. They can learn all these things. We didn't have YouTube. I don't know if we had YouTube. We never had phones that actually had internet, so they had to come up straight to you and actually tell you, hey, this is how you wear a condom, do these things. It was funny as hell, but now it's easy for any parent out there to actually teach. So that's my story there.
Okay. So for you, the sex talk happened at school with your uncles and with your mom. That is crazy. That is crazy. Okay. That is crazy.
It's an experience.
Yes, that is definitely an experience. So same question to you, Paul. So when and how did the sex talk happen? Take it away.
It's a very, very simple answer to this question, guys. It never did, and it still never had.
Oh my goodness!
And long may it last, guys. Long may it last. Yeah. I think when you're a guy from the country, I'd say nearly every Irish country guy would say the same. I think when your parents, are from the country, I think what they do is when you get around 11 or 12, they start allowing you to hang around with lads from the town.
Yeah.
That does the job. Then they know you'll find it out. Then,
I know you'll find it out.
I remember Ballinrobe where I'm from. There was this just actually beside the church. There was kind of trees and all that there. Whatever way, some kind Samaritan, obviously with teenagers in mind, left a Playboy magazine down, and it was in the exact same spot. And do you know what the funny thing is? It was like the Holy Grail. Lads would come in, they'd pick it up, they'd look at it, and they'd leave it down after them.
Leave it in the same spot.
It was a valuable resource for the town, but it never happened. Honest to God, it never did. The only bit of rubber we were ever encouraged to wear, you know what I mean, at home was a pair of wellies, But like, like I remember as well when I was in, I think it was 5th year or 3rd year in school. One day out of nowhere, we didn't have sex education, but there was apparently a thing came in, and I remember it was a Wednesday. Whatever the hell reason, I didn't miss many days of school, but whatever way, I was gone. I was gone doing something either with school or maybe sport, or I don't know what it was, or I was out. Oh Lord, lads, I was I was apparently unreal crack. I was sick into the highest degree that I missed it, because the only time in my whole 5 years in secondary school that it came in, and it would have been unreal crack. I can only imagine the buzz we'd have had out of it. The lads had great crack, you know. But apart from that, you know, when you're going out and you're early and you know, they obviously have the notion that you're you know, that you're going to be stealing women, and, you know, and getting with women and all that. I remember once or twice ever, you know, just before I went out one time, you know, they kind of talked a little bit around the subject, you know. And they just goes to me, just Paul, just you know, don't get caught. You know, and I think what they meant there was, if you are engaging in sexual intercourse, please choose to wear a prophylactic. You know, I think that's what they meant. But don't get caught. And you know, they said very little, but you know, but they said a lot. So I think you know, we mastered that art in Ireland of saying very little and indirect, but meaning a lot. You know, but I think that was it. That was it. So it never happened, and God forbid anything ever happened where you'd be watching TV. Yeah. And a sex scene would come on, the parents there. Oh, Lord.
Oh, I've had one of those before.
You'd lose about a stone weight out of shame alone. You know what I mean? The head doesn't go down much, but I tell you, it goes down. You'd nearly get a creak in your neck the quick you'd move your head down, you know.
The funny thing is when you've already watched the movie and your parents want to, your mom wants to watch it, and then you're there, you already know the sex scene is about to start, and you're already looking away, like, why are you looking away? And then it starts, so that's what you're looking at.
And you see, the thing about that is you're already then giving them the idea that you've seen it already.
Yeah.
So you know what's coming up, you know, so you're hanging yourself again, you know what I mean? There's no way out of it, you know?
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That is true. No, okay, so by the sounds of it, Paul's experience or the sex talk is from the streets. You know what I mean? So,
the lads down the road.
Oh my goodness! Before I share my experience on this one, I mean, if you guys have some decent sex talk stories, guys, let me know, and you can share it now. I'm just gonna go in the comments real quick. So we've got Uswazi saying "Wagwan, hello Uswazi," and then we've got Commissioner Spliff as well. Or is it Commissioner? Yeah, Commissioner Spliff saying "Ovi."
What it does?
Yeah. So quick story. My sex talk experience was like Fred's one. You know, in a sense where. One day I'm hanging out with this girl, and you know, my parents realized, oh wow, girls are coming to his house. So they come. So literally, they didn't waste time. You know, the girl was still there. They're like, hey, come to the sitting room. Let's have a chat. And they're like, listen, when your blood gets hot, yeah. This is what they told me. When your blood gets hot, yeah, just make sure you don't touch anything.
Boiling point.
That was it. And he was like, you know, they were like, listen, because if you touch something, and they didn't even say if you touch the girl, like if you touch something, she might end up pregnant. You might have to find a house. I was like,
straight to the bullet.
I know. For me, that was the sex talk. That was it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you guys have any stories to add on that one. All right, so guys,
well, lads, I think we'll all agree on this one. It's better to learn by doing.
Yeah.
No.
I think we.
What do you think? What do you think on that point? Me, I agree.
For me,
go on. Yeah,
I think I would. It would have worked differently if I did have a proper sex talk. I think it would have avoided a lot of potholes during my sexual encounters. As when I was a teenager, I would avoid certain things. You know what I mean? But I think it's needed. I would say, if you have kids, when they reach that point when they start to develop thoughts and stuff, explain to them what happened, so they shouldn't be being curious and trying everything, and eventually start regretting a few parts of them, you know.
But you know, I think in today's age, by the time you think you're telling them that something, they've already figured it out. In today's age, which is the truth.
Done it already.
Yeah, but
with phones and all these guys.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, you're the parent. They look up to you. You know, do you want them to learn from sources that might mislead them, or do you want to put your touch or your understanding into it? Because what are they going to remember? I just told you the sex talk that was given to me by my parents. You know, so what are they going to remember? That's
it's memories. You know what I mean? Creating memories. You know, like because if you let TVs and all this stuff teach your kids, do the parenting for you. Yeah. And then if you try to tell them something, they'll be like, "Oh, who are you? Why are you telling me something?" That's what I'm saying. You don't teach me anything. I learned for myself. So what right does it give you to tell me anything?
I'm saying it is good, to teach them, but I'm just saying in today's age, either way, by the time you're teaching them, they've already seen it. Anyway, you are just giving them the solid explanation as a parent, which is the reality of it, whether we like it, because today's age we have a child who's at 5 already able to use an iPad. By the time they're getting 10, 12, they'll surely know how to type Pornhub. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
But that's true because they keep advertising it in every.
So you're just gonna let your child roam free, Ovi?
No. What I'm saying is, even though I'm gonna say no, my point is, I would say it, but you should know that by the time I'm saying it, they already know the game ball. They'll pretend they don't know nothing.
Okay.
Which is obviously I'll still do it, but inside my head I'll be doing it knowing that you fool don't sit right there and try to bullshit me that you don't know what I'm talking about. You know it, but I'm just telling you, just so you should also remember that I told you this is how it works. You know what I mean?
All right. So we already had that one there. MP, did you have something to add actually?
No, I think from my point, like I think this sex talk depends on the parents. Like if the parents had a wild kind of lifestyle, they'll be able to add in content, like add in important information to the kids. But if they only had a straightforward kind of lifestyle whereby
what are they going to tell you?
What are they going to tell you? Because then maybe the kid will be going out to the clubs, going out to festivals. They've never done that. That sex talk will be a bit different to pass on to your kids.
To tell you have to go give cows first before you kiss her.
Okay, moving this along. So I've got a question for you. So we're going back to the European side. So Paul, I've got a question on the career side of it. What career and academic expectations did your parents set on you? What did they tell you about education and having a career, basically?
Well, my mother was a teacher, so a lot of opinions on it, of course, as she would. And Dad was a hard-working man, so there was definitely from day one it was just expected, and why wouldn't it be? I suppose any Irish rural background, I suppose the minimum academically was your leaving, as they say, the leaving cert. And then you suppose mostly you would either really when you finish school you would go to college or you would do a trade. You do an apprenticeship, something like that. So that would be that's kind of minimum expectation. I suppose it's average enough, really. I think across the board in Ireland it would be rural or urban, really. Look, various parents. I know parents who are doctors who aren't happy unless their kid is a doctor, and you know what I mean. It's the same thing with a lot is maybe people who are farmers who won't be happy unless the son or whatever takes over the farm, or these things happen. But personally speaking, my parents were dead sound with that. They would have encouraged me and pushed me with stuff. But the most important thing, and I have to say, fair play to them, they were whatever I wanted to do, they would back it, and they did back it. And at the time, I was in the 5th year leaving cert, I'd well given up on the academic side of things. I was pure into music and all. I had a band at the time, so I said, look, that's what I want to do. We were getting places, we were doing good gigs, we had a manager, we interested in us and all that, and fair play to them, both of them 100% backed it, and coming from rural Ireland, like I said, it's the academic thing or the trade or the land or a good job like that, and I was neither, and fair play to them, they 100% backed it, and anything I've done since they did as well. They were very sound to me anyway, very, very sound, and to all of us. But great work ethic in our family, right? There was none of us were ever kind of not doing much. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but brother does a good job. Sister had her own business for years and works now as well, doing she's her own new business as well, farming and stuff as well. And I just think, look, the work ethic is in you. Even the worst person you'd ever bring up on a farm has a great work ethic. You know what I mean? It's just there because there's constant to be done. Like I'm the same. Me, my brother and sister are not people at all to sit around do nothing. I can't, and sure, Ovi, probably you know me at this stage.
I know, yeah.
I can't do nothing. I'm an outdoors person as well. Like I always have to be doing something. I love physical work. I love getting involved in things, you know. So I think that would be a strong feature of rural Ireland. The get up and go, you know. And to be fair, there's a good business acumen, I think, with a lot of rural Irish people, because some of them run farms. They kind of be, and farmers are able to wheel and deal, and you know, in a good way and all that. And I suppose you know what it is too, and it has to be said. And as a person who works with a lot of small businesses, it does help a lot.
Yeah.
To have parents that have like property, as in a house or land or whatever. There is a lot more solidity than that, because you know, if you're starting up your own thing, it is good to know. No, not that you have to, or not that you, but it's good to know that if you maybe are starting up a business, something like that, your parents will back you, and they've, you know, money to back you. So that is a key thing. So that's, you know, that's there as well. I think that's a strong element of not every Irish household by any means, but it was for, I suppose, a lot of what would be seen as middle class families or rural families, or, you know, which is a large proportion of Ireland, or at least was. It's decreasing now, sadly, but it was. But expectations would have been that the minimum would have been leaving cert, then after that trade or a degree. So, you know,
very good balance. That very good balance, because one, you had the intellectual side of your mother's side, and then you had obviously the workmanship side of your dad's side. So that combining makes a very, very ideal, you know, career focused human being. So this, I'm gonna take on the African side, of course. The question was, what were the career and academic expectations that your parents set on you? For me, it was quite simple. I grew up with, so my parents are doctors, so I grew up with doctors, and their expectations are always up there. It was always, if you don't go to school, or if you don't achieve something in school, you're going to end up being the newspaper guy. And I used to get this more than the sex talk. Like, literally, there was this term that I always remember. Every time we got to this term, there was this newspaper guy on the side here. He was like, listen, man, it might be you next. You know what I mean? This is the expectation that was set for me. And then it went from that to, at a certain point, my cousins, my female cousins, everybody younger than me or whatever, getting their degrees, and I don't have my degree, and they're like, see, everyone's getting a degree, where's yours? Do you know what I mean? So for me, it was highly academic. Like, it was very academically pushed. There was never this workmanship thing, like work hard or whatever, like the balance that you got. There was never this be an entrepreneur. It was get a degree, go get a job. That was the vision. You know, I don't know if anyone else agrees with that, but this was the vision. This was the vision that was sold to me. I think if I hadn't moved from Malawi to here, I wouldn't have realized, look, I can do more than that. Do you know what I mean? So that were the expectations. Not that for me, I'm not sort of criticizing that. I think it's good for you to tell your kids, like, look, get an education. But I feel like getting an education is the first platform. That's just the first bit, you know, that's just getting over the line. The next part is, are you going to support that child to become who they want to be? Do you know what I mean? So in terms of support, you know, it's a little bit different for me. It was go and make your own lane. It wasn't a go and do what you need to do or what we expect you to do and we'll support you. It was, we'll support you till you get to your degree, but make your own lane, sort of thing. You know, I can't go, hey, mom and dad, I'm starting a bloody liquor company. They'll be like, yeah, okay, good luck.
Yeah. That was the worst part. Yeah.
That was pretty much it. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that, but that was how I experienced it.
That's true as well. For me as well, it'd be the same way. Like it was, to be honest, it wasn't, from the way I took it, it wasn't really an idea of I want to do this. Nah. They'll give you a set a goal that these are the options. Okay.
These are the
these are the options you should aim towards. They'll tell you, and that's my parents. That's I don't know if any other of your parents will be like that, but it's not that you wake up here, like in Europe, as you say, David, as well. It's true. Kids when growing up would actually have a choice to say, okay, mom, I want to do this, and parents would say, yeah, if that's what you love, you want to do, we're gonna give you support. While in Africa was okay, my friend, it's doctor, lawyer. Or if you don't do doctor or lawyer, don't go to school. You'll be a bus driver. That's nothing to do with us. You know what I mean? And so you had to aim towards that. That's what they put you in front of you, say you have to go towards this way.
Well, I would say it depends on which because every family obviously are different and stuff. In my case, you know, as being a firstborn, I was, you know, when you're firstborn, your parents expect more from you than the rest. You know, this they want you to achieve so you can be an example for your siblings growing up. So it's a little bit more pressure, especially when, you know, when I lost my dad when I was still in high school, when I was about to write my GCI, my my O levels basically. So
IGCSE.
yeah, IGCSE, yes.
Good.
When I was writing that,
Right.
you know, my dad died like
Rest of school
two,
fees.
2 days ago, and then have to go to few after I'm writing exams, you know, thinking about this. So I passed, but not so good because of that, you know. But I didn't. I want to repeat it once, but you know, your mom is always like, oh no, you have to be the father. You have to act like the father of your siblings and everything. You have to act like a
Yeah,
grown up.
yeah.
You're being forced to grow up. Be like, oh, you should go to school. You need to concentrate, you know. So I never had that father figure, you know. When I have a problem, I should ask like, okay, what can I do? What do I need to do? You know, when I'm making mistakes, I have someone to tell me like, okay, wait, don't do this, don't do that. I had to experience it firsthand myself. You know, go to school, force myself, and eventually, I didn't really like school that much as well, especially with the opportunities in Malawi. Everything was doctor that, and that means I have to go back to college for another 7 years, which was very exhausting. Like coming out of school, going to college, another 7 years. Like nah, bro. So eventually, this island. I think I remember one time I was speaking to Patrick about like, hey, bro, when he just came back from was it Russia? Like I did want to go to Ireland, bro. You know, so eventually he came here before me and stuff. So I came here, and then after I came here, there was so much opportunity that that you can do. You know what I mean? You can go to music and make it. You can do art and make it. As in all these things that you can actually
There's
achieve
more
in Malawi.
ability there.
When you
Yeah.
come here, you can even work a regular job and still get more money than a business person in Malawi. You know what I mean? So it was that
Uh,
much of a different that opportunity. Like you don't really need to be a doctor to earn so much than a person that's a doctor in Malawi. You know what I mean? I can do an average job here and still earn more. So all those things like it also like gravitated towards on what ambitious is in Malawi, as in what are the jobs that can get you money in Malawi. That's why parents used to force you those type of directions. Those we didn't have a wide range of opportunity to okay, if I let me try out. There was no try. You didn't have any time for that because if you go that somebody else would take that job, and jobs were limited at that time as well. So flying over here gave me that like okay, there's so many things I can do, so many opportunities. So it wasn't. It's not really stressful here, but in Malawi, it's stressful. So
it
that's
is,
that's
you
my
know.
take on that.
All right.
Cool.
That's a good cheer, man. That's a good cheer.
Very good, very good. Okay, so we're gonna move it to the next topic. Just getting cautious of time a little bit. Gonna get to the next question, and that's for you, Paul. First, so on the European side, what type of emotional relationship did you have with or do you have with your parents? So,
Again, similar enough to the sex one. Again, we were, I suppose, growing up in Ireland. Obviously, you know, you could in one sense, obviously, you kind of would eventually tell your parents everything, but you know, there's always that gap between you and your parents, just because you're a kid and a parent. You know what I mean? And stuff with your, you know, your friends sometimes are closer in that way, and you know, you don't upset them, you don't disappoint them, and you definitely don't want them to get mad at you. You know, but I think in Ireland in general, people and emotions, and particularly Irish men and emotions, haven't been. It hasn't been a brilliant relationship growing up. You know, that's why we make awkward jokes and drink a lot. But you know, that's what happens. But so I think, like, I mean, now I've good things with them. I can tell them anything. You know, and be honest about it and all that. But there always will be. And I think that's whole par for course. So there is a difference between you and your parents, because no matter how much you achieve in life, how whatever status you get or what, you know, your parents are still your parents, and they do have a degree of dominion over you, and that's never going to change. You know, even your family, it's always that way. So, emotionally, I think there's always the thing of you want to talk to them, but you don't want to set them that would upset them too, because your parents will worry about your problems more than you will. and you don't worry them. And you think, okay, if I, sometimes they say a problem shared is a problem halved. But when you tell your parents, I don't think that's the case. I think a problem shared is a problem doubled in that case, because they start worrying about it. I think it is. But certainly for me, I would have a healthy emotional relationship with them. But an Irish man and his dad, the emotional connection it's very matter of fact, and it's only when it's like a parachute. It's only used when bloody needs to save your life. You know what I mean? It's not something you use a lot. But look, they're there when you need them, and they do say the right things at the right time, and they put you in the right direction, and they do have your best interests at heart, and you can trust them. And that's kind of all you need to know. You don't need to have these 2-hour-long conversations with your parents, and I don't think they don't want to see you crying, they don't want to see you moaning, and and all that. But as an emotional outlet, traditionally they wouldn't have been your counselor. No, you would tell your parents stuff, but it wouldn't be you wouldn't spend all day at it, and even one time before, like with business and my business, and it'd been a true great journey. I had lots of knocks and got there in the end, and it was a roller coaster of a ride. And Dad had helped me a lot. And I remember one time I was even just at that point, I actually needed money just to pay a bill. I paid it back to him again, all sorts of stuff, but I needed it, and he helped me out. I remember one time after the whole thing that happened to him, I said, "Dad, thanks so much." I was really feeling the emotion, and it was great. And I went up, gave him a hug, and he goes, "Right, don't get too soft now." Fair play.
Fair play to him.
But, the male side of things not really there. The female side of things, there's a mammy and there's an Irish mammy. And guys, I know you're going to tell me, I know, because I know African women as well. The African mammy is definitely a strong character as well. Without but like guys, you just like I'm saying, you don't want them to know what your problems. You don't want them to know what your problems.
Mm-hmm.
If you have, when it gets to a case where it's really become a problem, you need help. You tell them, but don't tell them.
That's pretty good. That's pretty
like
good.
I said, like a parachute. Only use it when you need to save your life.
Good point. So that's the European side. Now we're gonna go to the African side, and representing the African side is Patso. So Patso, what type of emotional relationship did you have with your parents?
See, so for my part, like I grew up with a single parent. Like Paul saying that African mummies, they're always like they're always badass and stuff like that. Like growing up with my mother, like I knew like from the start, like she was a mother figure and a father figure in the same way. Like I knew that for a fact to say that if I wanted something, I had to go through certain levels to convince her to say I really need this. So that relationship, she tried to develop me to be more smart into like asking for certain things. So then, like, if you want something, you have to work hard for it. I learned that kind of thing, like, through that relationship. When you mess up, you have to apologize in the first place. You have to apologize before, you get to the depth of the story. I knew, like, from the start to say, like, she asked me, like, what's the story? What's going on? I had to explain myself and apologize before I even get the advice from my mother to say, this is the case. So you say this story is this, and that, and stuff like that. And I would say, like, on a male, perspective kind of view, like, it was lacking that kind of support, like the male figure support to say that, I would have been blasted by the father. I would have felt that kind of like, steam when I'm walking into the room to say that, what, big man is pissed off, and, the mother is there as a good cop. He's the bad cop. So there would have been that balance. So growing up to say that, that relationship would have been it, I would say would have made sense. But I don't know how you guys are growing up to say having, the father and mother kind of situation. But I knew for a fact, like, when it came to like curfews, when it came to like, being grounded, I shouldn't even step out on the grass, because then, first of all, it will be like, I know, like, usually, like in Ireland, like, I know, like, you don't really have babysitters and stuff like that. But in Malawi, you have, first of all, you have a babysitter in the house. Then you have, the cook. Then you have the garden boy who takes care of the garden. And then you have the guard that, looks after, security and stuff like that. So you have all these people. You're growing up around these people, and they'll be the first ones to snitch on you if you
Yeah.
Probably for a bonus. For a bonus.
If we're bonus, and we'd be like, my mom is paying
has
you.
confidence. Yeah. Yeah. So they know, the mother's paying, like the parent is paying, they know they have to snitch on you, to discipline you, to say, you know what, we're going to take care of your child. And if your child steps out of the gate, we're going to be the first people to tell you that, your child has gone out of the gate. So I grew up to say that, there was a bond between the people around me. And I knew that this relationship came from the parent, to say that they showed me that, you have to find security from the roots. It starts from them to say that you're the first person to make sure that your children are safe, and you have to have confidence in people around you to make sure your children are safe as well. So that kind of relationship kind of made me understand that, I can be safe in this situation. But then when it comes to like going forward to tell my mother that, I'm seeing a girl, that would have been another thing altogether, because then I would get a beating out of it, because there wasn't any chance that I would be open to my mother to talk about anything about relationship. Like Fred was talking about there early on, to say that, he found it very hard to actually, go forward to his mother and tell her that, well, I have girls in my life, I'm not sleeping with them, or I'm either, I started sleeping with them and stuff. Like I wasn't in that position. Those things, like when it comes to that relationship of, say, you're not married, you're not given enough support as as an adult when you're growing up, like over in Malawi or in Africa. The most support that you'd get over in Africa is when you're married. So you get that kind of support when you're married. People are more, involved in trying, like your parents and your partner's parents are more involved in trying to, make that relationship glue. But then before that, you don't have that kind of support or relationship to say that they will, come forward to tell you, this is how you have to manage your relationship. This is how you have to be in your relationship. It's always that they love you from a distance. And then once you mess up, they'll be in to step in and tell you, you need to correct yourself. So those are the kind of relationships that I grew up, around.
Mhm.
Okay, that is very, very interesting.
Very interesting stuff.
No, absolutely, yeah. Guys, yeah, I think Patrick had something to share on this part. If I'm not wrong, Patrick, did you want to add something to this? What your relationship was like?
I'm just going to add something fast. For me, it was the relationship between us and our parents when we were younger and was very distant. Basically, what I'm trying to say is your parents were untouchable. Like you don't just jump in the TV room and just sit there. there was a sort of respect that when your mom and dad are watching TV, you don't just go there and put your legs up. So it was sort of a distance thing. We had our own room where it was our TV room, and for you to jump from your TV room to your parent, the side for your parents, you really have to have you've been assembled, you've been called in, summoned by my dad or my mom, or you have something great to tell them that you did very well at school. If you go in that room and you're going to chat a lot of bollocks, you're not going to you're just asking for more trouble. So it was sort of that. But what amazed me is that's how the relationship was. It was distant. They were majority of the time my dad was at work, my mom was at home, but you don't bother her. She was mostly in the room. She doesn't want to be bothered. So we're being looked after by our aunties one of our aunties who always used to come from work. She loved us so much. She thought, like, our mom did love us, but our auntie seemed like more than always there. Then my mom would come out, but there was always a sort of the respect we had in our houses. Our parents were just like up there. You don't disturb them. Don't knock the door. But the funny thing is, as soon as we reached in our teenage age, especially when I reached 18, when I reached 16, my dad just changed. He was more closer to me, and he was closer to us in a very weird way. Like it was very close now. Like everywhere he goes, he picks you up. Like he takes you, he calls you and says, "Come with me." Even some weird trips where you just drive somewhere, and I remember there was a time when we drove and we parked somewhere, and he gave me his car, and I never drove before, and he said, "Let's start driving." I was like, "What the hell is this relationship coming from?" And then he used one day we parked in the middle of nowhere, and he started talking to me about his business. It's as if when I reached 16, he started passing the keys already. Now he started becoming closer. Then closer to everybody, to all the kids. Then he was more open and much better. The older he got, the older we got, he seemed to be more open and more closer to us. Same thing went to my mom. The older we get, she became sort of like a very close person where you're open to say everything. While back in the days, my mom was, I think we didn't even know much about my mom. That's how bad it was. Like it was, I wouldn't say bad, but how it makes me laugh these days. I even told my mom, I was like, what was up? She's like, well, the parenting we came from, that's how we were taught. Your parents, you don't really get to them unless they assemble you or that.
So your parents are not your friends type of thing.
Yeah, they're not your friend type of thing. Your parents are your parents. They'll look after you. They'll tell you Sunday, I'm taking you to church. Go to church. So that was the relationship, but it changed as soon as we got older. We were closer. My dad came one time, believe it or not, and this was the most shocking thing I've ever seen. I was somewhere at a party, and at that party, somebody had the bright idea that let's go to the lakeside. And I was young, and this is me. We're just young. We're not that old. I think that time I was like 18, and somebody was like, "Oh, when you're in these upper high school places where you're getting a diploma before you go somewhere else." And my dad actually drove and handed me an envelope full of money and said, "Enjoy yourself." And there was a face of mine saying, "What the hell is this?" Like I was still in shock because this was he just became more kind. Like more open, because believe it or not, if you mess up in my house, level 1 was my auntie talking to you. She never slapped you anything. She used to just scare you. Then level 2 was my mom. She comes out, she gives you a slap, and it's done. If you go to the level of my dad, just know that you've done something wrong, and that level was the boss. I remember me and my brother. Yeah, I wanted to tell you this, guys. I remember me and my brother, Kelvin, who was what these guys know him. Obviously, Paul, you meet him one day if you come on our podcast again. We messed up, and we messed up with paint. We painted something at the back while the painters were there, and after that, my mom gave out to us. Then she said, "You know what? I've had enough. I'll leave this for your dad." We actually told her, "No, we want you to discipline us." And she's like, "No, this one is for your dad." And we slept. He came home at 11:30, and we were sleeping and thinking, "Oh, thank God we've been saved." They still woke us up at 11:30 and still got that beating. And my dad's beating was so intimidating. Before he even touches you, you just my brother tried to cry. It didn't work. He said, "No, it's not going to work." But that's the relationship we had. You see, he was like, they were all distance, always working, never there. But as soon as we got older, they all seemed to sort of everywhere we go to the shops, they're always with us. So that's what I wanted to add. It just amazed me that when we were younger, they were distant. Then when we got older, we got so close to them that we actually even started knowing their birthdays. And when we were younger, we never even knew their birthdays or their real names. So that's it, yeah.
I just want to say, if it was me, when he handed you money, he says, "Are you cheating on mom?" That's the first question I'd ask. Why did you just come and give me and say, "Man, are you cheating on mom?" So you're afraid I'll find out.
Okay. Once again, moving along to the last question, right? So this is going to be sort of a double question, yeah. Again, I'll go back to the European side, and it is Paul David Murphy, Mr. Paul David Murphy, right? So these double questions are: how different is the culture in a European family, and what does the family structure in a European family look like? Take it away, sir.
Well, I suppose this is how different the culture is. I suppose you would have to experience to the fullest degree the other culture to compare. But the family structure, again, Irish people traditionally, up until very recently, would have had huge families. Actually, they're big families. I think we had the fastest growing population in Europe at one stage. I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think we did. I think we did. Yeah. Yeah, actually, we're a good-looking bunch. We're breeding a lot.
Everywhere.
Yeah. But yeah, there's more Irish outside of Ireland than there are in Ireland, though. It's kind of funny.
I guess
we're like a very pale disease all around the world. But no, of course, a brilliant thing around the world of Ireland. But so I suppose family structure. Like a strong father figure, strong mother figure. In a traditional nuclear family, obviously there are a lot of other denominations of families now. You would have been raised, like I said, to, go to school, go to college after school, do a job, get a job maybe the weekends when you're a certain age, help around the house if if it needs to be done, help around the farm if it needs to be done. Like, you know, you help your neighbor, you help your friends, you're there for them, you know, you support, you know, we were all in churches to play sport, you know, support your friends. It was all good, you know. Go to church, of course, go to church. Not a religious man myself now or anything, but you know, we're all raised going to church. And like, again, for the family structure, again, kind of to merge a lot of different points we've been talking about there this evening. I think even when families go on, you grow up, you do your own thing, siblings can all be living in different places, married or single or whatever. I think the one thing that still, I wouldn't say hangs over you, but it's always there, and we can all relate to it, is, you know, think about this, guys. How many people have told you about at large or at length about an elaborate thing they were going to do, and they said, but Jesus, lad, if the old pair ever found out, you know, and, there is still that, like I was saying to you earlier on, it's not necessarily the thing, but the fear of thing. But you know, there's so many people that would have done something else, but Jesus, off the old pair found that out now, or if the parents found out that I was doing that, you know, there is this, they're always kind of there. It's always going to be there as an element in your decision making and in your thoughts, because your parents are your parents, and you know, they're always there for you, and they're not going away. And I do think it is funny, like, you know, to talk to people of all ages, and they would always still say, Jesus, I don't, yeah, but God, you know, Jesus, if they already had heard that now, I wouldn't be able to go back, you know, and all this stuff. So structure-wise, even when the whole family are, for, I suppose, lack of a better term, born and raised, there still is this entity in human form known as your parents that you have to answer to, and that will always have clout on you, you know, and that you'll always look up to and respect. But I suppose, again, to go back to my original point, by comparison, to compare the Irish or European with African, like, I've been to Africa a couple of times actually. Here, I actually didn't even notice to put this on today, if you could see it. That's a thing I got in Kenya. Last year. Loved Kenya. I think, I suppose, from what I could see, obviously a lot of parts of it, even the more average parts of it, most certainly of Kenya, for example, or any African country I was in, the level of, I suppose, poverty and then probably ergo expectation would have been different. How that bears on the family structure, I'm not sure regarding how many siblings people have, but I would probably imagine from what I heard from everyone, or most people I was talking to who mentioned it to me, in Africa, particularly in Kenya and in places like Egypt and Morocco, they do have quite large families. And it's so now I think Ireland has been subsumed into this Western, you know, the American dream, the Western culture of, you know, was it the 2.4 children? I don't know, they say, but families are a lot smaller now. It's financial, really, isn't it? You know, because when we were growing up, I think 3-4 was average enough. 2 to 4 kids, I think, was average enough. In our days, and we'd say national school, but before that, 80s and 70s and that, there would have been much bigger families, you know, much bigger families. Both my father and my mother would have been in bigger families than we were. I think it's probably going down and down more. So I suppose that, from a numerical point of view, and from an attention point of view, and from, I suppose, a logistic point of view, and living conditions and all that, that has a huge bearing. So that would be one huge difference, I would say, probably still. Now, I could be wrong, but from what I observed in Africa, families would still be quite large. So, you know, and there's the obvious difference of, I suppose, economic prosperity, you know, and resource access and stuff. But that'd be my take on it so far. It'd be hard for me to kind of compare too much, because, like I said, I grew up in Ireland. I didn't. I can't, you know, compare only from what I've seen.
All right.
But this is where you guys come in, obviously.
Exactly. So I'm gonna again shift this question to Patrick. The final question, or the double question, is: how different is the culture, and what does the family structure look like? The African family structure. Let's go, Patrick.
Okay. I'm going to answer both sides a bit by what I have seen, because Ella is half Irish and Malawian, so she's got both worlds. And every time I visit for Christmas, I can see that structure. Somehow I can see it. What I've noticed, I don't know, majority of the families, I don't know if Paul would agree with me. I've been to a few families. Every time I speak to people, it's either the sisters don't talk to each other, so the sisters have got their own thing, and the brothers have their own thing. Sometimes you find two sisters are still friends, or brothers are still okay. So somehow you find if that's the family, it looks like that's the family you see. Like for a while, all I could see was Ella's. I think for a while, for a long time, all I could see is Ella's nanny, who's the direct grandmother. I never saw the other grandmothers until later on. But if you go back home, they already tell you the structure. The structure is taught to you when you're young. That is so and so. That is so and so sister. That is who and who. That's your cousin. That's your second cousin. That's your third cousin. But here, I've never actually sat around like an Irish family and they've started telling me, oh, the second cousin is there, is down the street. This is this. I don't know if I'm wrong, Paul. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I've heard. So, but if you go back to Africa, you will know the great-grandmother's sister lives there. That's where he was buried. That's the structure. That's who grandfather, your great-grandfather is there. He's the one who you get for advice with this. If you want to deal with witchcraft, go to your auntie. Go to your auntie from the north.
Now, to be fair,
So you see, that's the structure you're given. So it's your grandfather, this and that. So you're taught everything, every family tree, everything.
Family members that you haven't met yet.
Even haven't met, you have to know them.
So,
they even have to know.
But here, I think it's straightforward. I've noticed a household is a household. It's the dad, the mom, and then the grandparents, whichever side. You find the pictures are there. You can even tell by the pictures why when you go back home, there's a whole book album like this, and it's that's all the way here. So that's what I can say. But just to speak about it, like the culture back home also, I think they encourage you to know your roots. They always want you to know your roots. They want to know where you're from. They don't want you to forget. Unfortunately, this is what I've noticed. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if the other lads share this. What I noticed about the culture in Ngoni culture, I'm Ngoni myself. It's one of the tribes that like fighting a lot back in the days and like eating a lot of meat. They were concentrating more on my dad's side. So everything I knew was from my dad's side, my grandmother from my dad's side. I actually found out about my other grandmother, and that's where she's from later on. We were always visiting my dad's side, regardless, and I used to ask a lot. And it looks like it also happens in other families. Somebody told me that the same as me, we were just concentrating on the father's side. Like the mom has taken the name. That's the structure you have. That's the culture you have. That's it. It's that side. And then you find out your mom later on, like right now, when my dad passed away years ago, that's when I started discovering the other side. And when the other family sort of say, oh, okay, we're here now. You go at the funeral, then you're like, oh, that's your mom's sister, long lost sister. That's the older one. You're like, oh my God, I've never seen her. So that's how it is. So that's what I can say on family and structure. I don't know if I've missed anything. That's what I can. But I've noticed that in Ireland, you go in the family, like all you know is, oh, that's my nanny, that's my daddy, and then it goes back like this. I never hear that there's another nanny there, there's a grandmother that side, there's a great grandmother, sister, twin sister that side. No, it's always you just know this. Here are the people. That's what I get introduced to, or maybe they're hiding the other side of the family. I don't know. So
actually, it actually would have been very like that. Again, going a little bit back. When I would have grown up, still growing up. Back in the 90s when I was a kid, and before that, it would have been that case. And you could even see it maybe in certain areas now. I mean, you could literally go to somewhere like just rural Donegal or rural Mayo or anywhere like that, and particularly out the country now, you could say, oh, that's such and such a family, and the house next door would be, where he grew up himself, and then the house next door would be his brother's house, and the house next door would be the sister's house.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. In the countryside, like here. True. That's true. I'd agree with that.
There would have been a lot of connections there.
No, that's true.
Oh, but okay, so the similarities, grand,
that would have been, it would have been evident,
But see, the similarities is only that here it only stands in the countryside, but in our country, even in the township, it's like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but in Dublin, it looks like it goes out of the window.
Yeah, in Dublin,
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah,
nanny, sister, brother. So,
okay. Okay, so to wrap it up, I just wanted to read this one comment that I missed out earlier. So Vanessa says, "Look, my LOL, my parents only recently found out I date. They scare me." So that's the sort of relationship she has with her family. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, guys, to conclude this, like we've learned a lot that on both sides. You know, the parenting, people do it differently, but it's not so different. I think there's some similarities there. I think in every side of the story, there's a level of care, whether there was physical punishment or not, whether the sex talk wasn't enough or not. There was a level of care. They always sent you to someone if they couldn't help you. You know what I mean? So, no, it was some very, very good points. So today we spoke about the discipline side of it, the sex talk, the career and academic expectations of your parents. The emotional relationship people have with their families and their parents, and how different the culture is and the structure. I wanted to thank Paul David Murphy for coming on. Some very, very good points. You really, really represented the European side there. We loved your.
Thanks very much. I really enjoyed being on now.
Absolutely.
Hopefully I didn't talk too much.
That's why we needed you. That's why we wanted here.
That's fine. Okay.
Cut me out of the podcast is probably about 8 minutes or something. You know? Talk too much, I know. But no, I really enjoyed being on. Anyways, I really enjoyed it. Now, thanks for inviting me.
That's lovely. So
thank you as well. Thank you.
To close the show, guys, make sure you like and subscribe, guys. All right. If you loved what we did today, give it a like. In fact, smash a like for poor David Murphy, guys. Come on now. He spent an hour with us.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
give a like to worse, you know?
Exactly. Give us a thumbs up. And obviously tomorrow, 8 p.m., we will be on Instagram live speaking to you about the usual relationship stuff. By the way, we're on Apple Podcasts now, so you can, if you want to listen to us, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all these platforms, guys. So to sign out, what is the name of the show, boys?
Five rounds.
There we go. See you guys later.